And now, do please welcome, you have already met her this morning, Ingrid E, who is the Director of Audiences Norway, who is going to give us a case presentation. And afterwards, we will have another case presentation on Skype. This is going to be very interesting. But do please welcome Ingrid.
Thank you. After all this massive information, I'm going to, in 15 minutes, tell you everything inside this report. So just stay awake. No, I'm not. This is the Oslo Atlas, by the way. And, well, this is an interesting image. It's not supposed to be in the beginning, but everything about presentations here is quite funny today. So what happens here? Thank you for listening. Well, that was very quick, wasn't it? Okay. That's funny. Okay, I have to do the presentations from the last slide until the first. No. Okay, what happens here? Is somebody doing something? Interesting. Wow, the Performa project. Okay, guys. Some of you know me. I'm Ingrid E. I'm Director of Audiences Norway. I started 2 years ago, and then I came from the National Theatre in Oslo, working as head of communication for many years. And when I started 2 years ago, I was definitely not an expert in audience development. We were not experts in audience development in Norway when Audiences Norway was established in 2010. And what I am trying to do is to understand what's going on, good practice, insight from the UK, from the Nordic countries, from all over Europe, even from the US. We've been conferencing there as well, to try to understand what kind of huge field this is, to classify, to structure it, to understand it. I have an academic background. I'm an historian of ideas, actually, and I studied music and philosophy, so I have a totally strange background for working with something that you would imagine would be most about marketing. I have no education in marketing whatsoever. I could never produce slides like we just saw. But I am very experienced as a communication person from an institution, and I'm also a very experienced member of the audiences. I'm a passionate audience member, and I'm an expert audience. In the performative arts especially, I'm an expert, which doesn't make me an expert in communicating with those people who are not experts of performative arts. This is something that I've learned the last 2 years. I believed I was an expert when I was heading the communication department. Now I understand that I'm probably an expert at communicating to the close community around the theatre, the very experienced audiences, but I'm certainly not at least not by being an expert in communicating with what we in this project have named non-users, the people who don't visit us yet. Okay, so what is the Performa project and Oslo Atlas about? I will not talk about the Oslo Atlas. It's too big. There is many learnings and findings. I will say something about it in the breakout session afterwards. But what I have been encouraged to talk about for 15 minutes, and how many minutes is there left? Like 5 or 10? Yeah, I will talk about the collaboration part, the organizational part, the thing that we come from outside as an audience agency with a sum of money, approaching 5 big institutions and asking them to participate in a project, which is an insight project, but also an action project. We give them insights, we develop insight together with them, and then we have a contract that they will feed back in this project by actually dialoguing with people who never, or at least not for the last 5 years, have been to any of their venues. So it's a social experiment in a way. Okay. There it is. We, as an audience agency, we deliver insight. We don't work as consultants. Actually, it's me and a small team hired from time to time during conferences and projects. What we do is that we try to engage the members of Audiences Norway, 140 right now, all the big orchestras, theaters, museums, festivals, culture houses and such. We try to cover or to curate and trace and spread insights about audiences, first and foremost, and also about good practice in working with new audiences. So it's very much about insights. We got the assignment for this Performa project directly following up on a white paper from the former Norwegian government, the red-green government, the social democratic government, that had this policy of where the policy of inclusion policy was the main thing. And so we actually, in this white paper, it says that we were supposed to, or the whole cultural field was supposed to really make an effort, and they allocated money to this project to make an effort there and then in 2010 and 2011 to do different kind of projects in different fields to really try to include the excluded ones. We got 1.5 million for it. That's 200,000 euros, I think, which we have been using now these 3 years. We started in 2012, and we will deliver the report next year. Okay, so to begin with, we had excluded people, some excluded people out there, and we needed to find out how to think about them. Are they excluded? Do they feel excluded? How can we kind of define who we are actually going to investigate, get insights about? And what we decided was this non-user thing, that we said a non-user will be a person that has never or hasn't been to any of the 5 institutions that we choose to work with as our partners for the last 5 years. And those partners are those you see there. They're all national organizations with a national obligation. They're all in Oslo. Why did we pick them? Very quickly, the steering group of the Performa project is the Norwegian Theatre and Orchestras Association, together with the Arts Council and Audiences Norway. And we asked all the 44 members of NTO, the National Theatre and Orchestra Association, whether they had conducted audience survey, because we thought that we needed to start with those who knew who were actually coming and who had some audience insight to work with those who were not coming. And only 9 out of 44 organizations had undertaken that kind of studies, which is also quite interesting. 5 of them were actually in Oslo, the big ones with the big budgets. So we decided to work with them because they actually had the knowledge that we needed as a starting point. The project design, very superficially, is phase 1. We needed insight. We entered the insight phase. We need to get to know. We formulated it as motivations, barriers, needs, expectations of people living in Oslo, in the area around these 5 institutions, Oslo and Akershus actually. And we decided to undertake a big survey and read the answers through the lenses, and this is a little bit complicated, the lenses of culture segment, which is a segmentation created by a UK-based consultancy called Morris Hargreaves and McIntyre. Some of you will know them. We decided to read the market through the lenses of the culture segments. It gave us some really valuable insights. I will not be able to talk about it now. I will talk about it a lot for the coming years, I guess. But for now, I will just say that that was the insight phase. And all the institutions, the partners, were really interested in getting this knowledge and understanding those culture segments and how they can use them as a better way of communicating with audiences than socio-demographics. I mean, it's hard to market to or talk to a person because it's 42 years. I mean, there are other things that defines people's needs than how old they are, which sex they have, and what they earn. So this is the reason why we did it. They are really interested in it, and it also informs the action phase, which is the crucial phase, which we are in right now. And so I don't have any. The project is not over. It's in the middle, and the different institutions are now working with non-users or potential new audiences, as not having been there for 5 years. And then we have the Performa report, which is also going to be really important, where we are going to give our recommendations to the ministry about working with inclusion and working with these kinds of institutions. Okay. These are the actions that we already undertook, and we have some ahead of us. We have partners have been sharing audience insight for the first time. They are competing in their region. Now, in this project, they have actually sat around the table and shared their audience insight with each other, which is quite, well, that's a new thing. So it's a very good thing. And starting to talk together and cooperating. We have undertaken this audience survey and the segmentation analysis. We have conducted focus groups with non-users, with low income, because low income was the one socio-demographic segment that we wanted to focus on. And we have arranged a critics forum to have the report criticized by researchers, to find weaknesses and strengths in the insight, of course. And we have been sharing it with all the members of the NTO. People are calling me every day to have me coming and talking about the Oslo Atlas and the segmentation model. So there is really an interest for and a thirst for a language around audiences that are not socio-demographic. This is really, there is a demand for that. Whether this language is the ultimate language about audiences, that's another case. But there is a demand for a language other than the socio-demographic one. Yes, we have been study visits, written a report on educational programs in similar institutions, and we have hired a project manager with artistic credentials, which is crucial, because if you're going to work inside these institutions with audience development, you need to have artistic cred. Otherwise, nothing will happen. I guess many of you know what I'm talking about. And most interesting, these partners now have established cross-departmental working groups, and that's really, really interesting. In all the years when I worked in the National Theatre, I was never a part of a cross-departmental working group. We worked with the audiences in the communication department. The rest of the organization did theatre. So actually this is an achievement, and that they have recruited people from dramaturgs, from the sales offices, from technicians, whatever they are different in different institutions, is really an achievement, actually. And it's really interesting to see how they start to be really creative when they finally get the time and space to sit down and talk together around audiences. And they are also recruiting their own focus groups. We could call it something else. Focus groups is a very marketing kind of word to use. Nothing wrong with that, but we could also call it just like in school you have utviklingssamtaler in Norwegian, which is development talks. These are actually meetings between people that never meet, and it's the wish that mutual learning will occur in these meetings. We're in the middle of that now. We are just hearing from the working groups that amazing things can happen and come out of it. We can talk more about that in the breakout session. These dialogue meetings, we have them. Some of the partners are ahead of others. Some are already starting to do these things. Others are still planning. but we will follow them, observe what's happening, and report to the ministry. I was asked to talk about frictions. Do I have 2 minutes, 1 minute, 2 seconds, whatever? I have 2 minutes. Okay. We have discovered that the same challenges that you have by working with audiences that are probably not really motivated, you have exactly the same challenges working with these institutions and people inside them. There are lots of people inside them. It's not like it's one voice. It needs to be anchored inside the institutions, and it's not easy, as you probably can imagine, to come from outside and anchor something that there is not really a demand for, that does not really feel relevant to daily business from outside. So there is barriers and motivations. The motivations are a real passion for new audiences. They really want new audiences, no doubt about that. And there is curiosity, new insights, but the barriers are why impose ourselves on people that clearly don't have any interest in taking part. Yeah, it doesn't make business sense. It's hard to find time to a project coming from outside, and always the same question: what are we actually meant to be doing? Because, like somebody said yesterday, communication departments and artists and managers in organizations are not used to speak to totally different people. Some artists are, when they work research-based with art projects, of course. They are probably the best communicators with the non-users, and that's also where we want to have them in the working groups. And we also have this, but on the artistic level, we have this other resistance in a way, and that's that audience development, that to do a project like this is some kind of instrumental, policy-driven, or even new liberal, it's kind of, the new public management devil in disguise that we are imposing on the arts and maybe corrupting it even from inside by importing this language and so. So we have that kind of barriers to work with. Now my time is almost out. I will just show you some pictures. These are the figures, the main figures. These are the findings about how many people have been in these institutions the last 5 years and how many have not. And it's really surprising that it's so many, that 64% of Oslo's population have been here the last 5 years in one of them. They are not, it could look like they are just close to each other, but they are not. Seen from the perspective of the institution, when the institution is in the middle there, you have communities in circles around you, and it's hard to reach out through all these circles. And when we come and say, work with the ones who are hard to reach outside there is, well, why should we? I mean, and so one of the institutions, the House of Dance, is so young, they are even trying to just establish an audience. So why work out there? This is how they look from the point of the audience. And a non-user is, of course, not a not existing character. There are no non-users as such. They are people with lots of different interests and needs. They are just non-users as defined if they have ever been to one of these 5 institutions. So we don't mix them with kind of being entities in their own, but that's how the world looks from their point of view. And the main barrier, and now I will end, it's the last thing I'm going to say, we found that the main barrier towards attending these institutions in Oslo is not economy, it's not education, it's the perceived total irrelevance of performative arts. They are not at all on their radar at all. That's all for now.